And we are back. Welcome back to the Premier League prediction series. Firstly, a happy Easter to any and all of you celebrating this weekend. And secondly, thank you once again for all the incredible support during the international break. A very frustrating international break, I'm sure, for most of us watching. But for those of you of a Polish, Georgian or Ukrainian persuasion, a massive congratulations once again to all of your sides for qualifying for Germany 2024. But like I say, the international break is now over and the run-in can now commence. Of course, as always, we will have all of our Premier League predictions for you on this channel, as well as all of the remaining FA Cup and Champions League predictions coming up for you over the course of the next 6 or 7 weeks as we conclude the 2023-24 season. We have got 9 game weeks left in the Premier League, and we're going to kick things off today with Game Week 30. So if you haven't done so already, please do consider dropping a like on this video if you do enjoy these predictions series, and subscribe to the channel, of course, if you are new around here. As I just said, lots of videos we have got coming up for you over the course of the next few weeks. Premier League predictions today, Manchester United reaction coming tomorrow, and then again, Premier League predictions once again on Monday morning ahead of what will be a midweek game week coming up for you. And of course, as you did so well during the international break, do please consider putting some comments down in the comment sections below whether or not you agree or disagree with the predictions that I've got coming up for you today. And without any further ado, let's get straight into all of the action taking place tomorrow and Sunday in Premier League Game Week 30. And we start off with the 12 o'clock kickoff, or the 12:30 kickoff, taking place between Newcastle United and West Ham United. Two sides that are in desperate need of some points as they chase the European places. I think this is going to be a really tough game. Both sides are starting to get some sort of momentum put back together. Newcastle look like they're starting to pick up a few more injuries. Again, though, injuries are going to be a massive theme across the whole of today's video. But Newcastle, of course, look like they know they're now going to be out without Sven Botman until Christmas. A massive loss for them, although he's not been great this season. West Ham, though, like I said, starting to get the majority of their key players back and have started to produce some really good results. So I can see this being a really tight game. I can definitely see West Ham potentially getting something in this one. However, my instincts this morning are just telling me that Newcastle are going to edge it. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 win to Newcastle, which will see them gain some much needed ground on West Ham in that race for those European places. From the lunchtime kickoff, we move to a whole host of 3 o'clock kickoffs. We have got 5 3 o'clock kickoffs for you this weekend in the Premier League. First of which is between Bournemouth and Everton. Now, Bournemouth are basically already safe in the Premier League. Everton, not quite so yet. Still potentially further investigations surrounding them and the potential points deductions still potentially yet to come for Everton. So, huge pressure on them. They're going to need to start picking up results because you just don't know with this division. But for me, I just think Bournemouth are going to take this one. I think Everton have been so poor recently. I believe they haven't won since Christmas. Correct me again in the comments if I'm wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure in the Premier League they've not won since Christmas. So Bournemouth, I think, have to be considered the strong favourites for this one. I'm going to go for 2-0. I just don't see where Everton are going to get their goals from at the moment. They just look like they've completely dried up. Speaking of the relegation battle, it's very much a relegation-heavy 3 o'clock programme. We then have Chelsea at home to, in the relegation zone, Burnley. Chelsea, of course, like I say, mixed at the moment. It sounded like yesterday Pochettino's press conference, he said that there are 10 first-team players unavailable for this one. So they are going to have some injuries, but obviously with a £1 billion squad, you would know that they're still going to have some quality players available to them. Burnley, again, they're just not good enough for me. And going away to Chelsea, I'd be very shocked to see this being any other result than a Chelsea win. I'm going to go for 3-0 to the Blues in that one. That then brings us to the newly in the relegation zone side, Nottingham Forest, taking on Crystal Palace. Forest, of course, have appealed their 4-point deduction. We're not going to find out the results of that points deduction until the end of April. And apparently they've already confirmed that even though they've appealed, it's very unlikely that the points could be increased, but more likely it's either going to stay the same or get reduced, which is very interesting considering the fact that when you do make an appeal, it does get reassessed, so surely they can have more points deducted, but it looks like that's not going to be the case. They're taking on Crystal Palace, who, under Glasner, have made massive strides to turn their form around and have moved themselves a little bit further away from trouble. I think this is going to be a tight game. Nottingham Forest, again, despite some individual good performances, collectively as a team, they're just not producing results at the moment. And I think with the form that Crystal Palace have been in over the last couple of weeks, I'm going to go for a 2-1 win to Crystal Palace. That might be my biggest shock of the weekend, but that is what I can see happening in that one. Continuing with the relegation fight, the next game is between bottom club Sheffield United and Fulham. Fulham, of course, with some fantastic performances recently. The win away at Manchester United, a 3-0 win at home to Tottenham in their last game. And I just look at this fixture now and go, I just don't see how Sheffield United get this result against Fulham. Defensively, as we know, Sheffield United are an absolute abysmal this season. Fulham are playing some fantastic stuff going forward at the moment. And, of course, that main man, Muniz, still going strong. I'm going to go for 2-0 to Fulham. I can't see it going any other way. I'd like to say that I hope Sheffield United get something for their sake. But as a partial Luton Town fan, I absolutely don't hope that Sheffield United get anything from this game. And I hope that Fulham do get the result to give Luton as much chance of staying up as possible. Because the final 3 o'clock game is Luton Town, and now out of the relegation zone due to Nottingham Forest's point deduction, but they travel to Spurs, which is going to be a very, very tough game for them. However, if Nottingham Forest lose, as predicted, whatever happens, Luton will remain out of the relegation zone in this match. But, I mean, it's going to be an interesting one, because I think against sides that sit in deep, that's where Luton have struggled recently. You've got to look at the Sheffield United result, the Nottingham Forest result, and say that Luton really do struggle against teams that sit in, because Luton just don't have any way of breaking them down. Tottenham, on the other hand, are absolutely suicidal, gung-ho, pile everyone forward, and that's where Luton can strike on the break. And you've got to look at the results like 4-4 away at Newcastle as a really good example of how Luton could potentially still get a result here. I still don't think it's going to happen. Again, injuries piling up, especially in defence for Luton Town. And it looks like they've now lost Ogbene as well, which would be a huge loss for them. I still think it's going to be a high-scoring game, but I'm going to go for a 4-2 win to Tottenham. That then brings us to the first of 2 evening games on Saturday, the first of which being one of the many Birmingham derbies, this one between Aston Villa and Wolves in the 5:30 kickoff. Again, form has not been great for Aston Villa. They've been starting to drop key points in big matches. Wolves, we know under Gary O'Neill, are playing some fantastic stuff. But again, injuries piling up. They're struggling to find sort of creative players available to them at the moment. Whereas Villa do have the majority of their players fit. And I just think they're probably going to edge it. I think McGinn is still suspended for this one. So could be a huge loss for them in midfield. But if Yuri Tillemans plays the way that he did against England, I can see him being a very key factor in this one going in Aston Villa's favour. I'm going to go for 2-1. Like I say, I don't think it's going to be a game that Villa win comfortably, especially in the sort of derby environment. Wolves definitely more than capable of getting a result here. But I think Villa are just going to edge it. The final game on Saturday sees Brentford taking on Manchester United. A repeat of the absolute humiliation from last season that, of course, saw Brentford win this fixture 4-0 in one of Erik ten Hag's first games in charge. Let's not get it twisted. The game at Old Trafford this season didn't go too well either, with Manchester United scoring 2 goals in injury time to make it a 2-1 win, thanks to Scott McTominay. I think since then, and I look at the performances, especially against Liverpool in the FA Cup game, I really think Manchester United should be winning this. But again, I always gone about shoulds with Manchester United. I never go with what I think will actually happen. So I would expect Manchester United to win this game pretty comfortably, along the lines of a 2-0 or a 3-1. But I just think defensively, we're still a little bit wobbly. It's a bit unsure who's going to be playing where. I think Brentford are going to get themselves at least 1 or 2 goals. But I think the way Manchester United attacked against Liverpool, they're still going to get the job done. So I'm going to go for 3-2 to Manchester United. I could very easily see this being a 2-2 or maybe even a 2-1 to Brentford. But I'm going to slightly put my bias hat on and say Manchester United will take this one 3-2. That then brings us to Super Sunday and the title race. Liverpool-Brighton, followed by Manchester City-Arsenal. We'll start off at Anfield once again, where Again, injuries seem to be the key word, but even with the amount of injuries that Liverpool have, they are still producing the goods week in, week out. They drew away at Manchester City. No, it wasn't away, was it? They drew with Manchester City last time out, despite all of their injuries. So I can't see it being too much of a struggle against Brighton. Yes, Brighton got a fantastic result at Anfield last season, but they themselves haven't been playing so good recently. Their injuries are starting to pile up as well. So for me, Liverpool should be taking this one. I'm going to go for 3-1 to Liverpool, but we'll see. Brighton, of course, do have a history going to Anfield. That then leaves the main event of the weekend. It is Manchester City taking on Arsenal, with the winners of this game surely solidifying themselves as probably the title favourites for the season. Can Arsenal do it on the biggest stage? Can they actually go to the Etihad and get the win, which would see them pull away at the top of the Premier League table from Manchester City? I just don't think they can. I have to look at some of the performances. Yes, they played well against Manchester City earlier this season. Yes, they played very well against Liverpool earlier on this season. But in the big away games, they just haven't turned up, in my opinion. They really, really haven't done enough. And you've got to look at the performances against Porto in the Champions League as well, as recently as a couple of weeks ago, and say, when it matters, this Arsenal team just haven't produced to the level that you would expect for them to actually challenge for titles, trophies, Champions Leagues, etc. If they go to the Etihad and get a win, I will genuinely be stunned. And I just think with City, with all their players still available, yes, Stones and Walker look like they're going to be missing, but De Bruyne's back, Haaland's going to be fit. They've got so much quality around the pitch. Rodri hasn't lost for 420 days. I just don't see it happening. I really don't. I'm going to go for 3-1 to City. I think that's a fair prediction. I think most Arsenal fans won't argue with that. I'm sure the diehard Arsenal believe till we die fans are going to think they're going to go to the Etihad and win, and all fair play to you for that. But for me, City surely win this game. And if they don't, then well done to Arsenal. But for me, City will do what City always do. Turn up when it matters and win this game and solidify their credentials to retain the title once again. That is going to be it for today's prediction video. As always, thank you very much for watching. Let me know all of your thoughts down in the comment section below. I will see you tomorrow night after the Brentford-Manchester United game ends, where hopefully we won't be discussing another 4-0 to Brentford. Thank you very much for watching once again. I will see you tomorrow night.